Hi, have you ever looked at two Lenormand cards and thought, I know what these cards mean individually, but I have absolutely no idea what they mean together? So you grab a book, you search online, and start looking for the exact combination. What does the heart and the fox mean? What does the rider and the letter mean together? What does the clouds and the ring mean? If you've been doing this, I want you to try something different. Stop trying to memorize every Lenormand card combination. There are 36 cards. If you try to memorize every possible two card, three card, four card, five card combination, you're going to make reading Lenormand much harder than it needs to be. Instead, I'm going to show you how to think in Lenormand. Hi, I am Michelle. I am the Mystic Channeler, and I know we've all been there, especially when you start reading Lenormand and you are new to it. And there's so many. I know there's only 36 cards. I mean, that's a bunch of memorizing to do whenever you're looking at the meanings behind each of the cards. So hopefully I can teach you something today so that you can feel more confident and know that you are not alone whenever you're trying to memorize and remember all of these cards because it can be overwhelming. So let's see what we can do instead. So think of Lenormand as a language. Think of Lenormand as a symbolic language. When you learn a language, you don't memorize every sentence you might possibly say. You learn the words. Then you learn how those work together. Lenormand works very much the same way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain it, tell you a little story. So my grandson, he loves cookies. Absolutely loves cookies. So whenever he was younger, he would point to them. He would know exactly where the cookies were. And he'd point to the closet, and I knew what was needing. And then he started going, nom, 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 cookie, mama, mama, mama. And I'm going, okay, you want a cookie. So I grabbed the cookie from the cabinet and give him a cookie. And eventually he's going to say, want cookie. That's just a phrase. And then it will lead to a sentence. I want a cookie. And it's amazing how children learn language. Well, it's basically the same thing as Lenormand. Treat it as learning a language. It has its own individual language. So let's look at this combination. So whenever we're learning the cards and you're going, okay, I know this means the rider means arrival, news, movement, someone approaching. But how do I figure out the definition? Letter, written communication, documents, messages. These are some of the things that it can mean. There are many more meanings. It's almost like whenever you're trying to find a definition of a particular word, and there are like 10 different definitions, and you're going, I don't know which one to choose. So how you choose it is in the context of the situation. You go, oh, that makes better sense. Then that's when the light comes on. All right. So instead of asking, what does the rider plus Lenormand combination mean? And instead, you need to ask, how could these two ideas work together to create a story? I'm going to tell you a cheat sheet there to create a story. So the meaning, something is arriving plus written communication could become a message is arriving for you, or you will receive a communication, or documents may be coming your way. And of course, all of this depends upon the question that you ask. But I'm just showing you how you can change the meaning into more of a phrase or into a sentence. Because whenever you're doing something is arriving, that is more of a phrase. And so you want to really turn it more into a story, into a sentence to make a story. And plus the fact it will make better sense to whoever you're reading to. So I wanted to see what the difficult Lenormand combinations were. What is something that everybody seems like they're having problems with the combination? And there's a reason for it. So Tower, and let's see if think about if you've actually, whenever you're doing a reading, if you have come across these combinations. Tower plus lily, book plus moon. So these are difficult to read due to lack of concrete imagery, overlapping abstract meanings, and context dependency. So they're much more difficult to read, and I'm going to give you some examples why. So the tower plus lily, it can mean, these are just some of the meanings, it can mean an old establishment, a cold family dynamic, or formal boundaries. So it leaves the core messages unclear without more cards. So it's very difficult when you have just a two card combination, and that's when you actually need to go to much more cards. So it creates a double layered enigma about secret about feelings, an undiscovered talent, or unknowledgeable unacknowledged studies, or that feels abstract and hard to ground. So a lot of this comes with abstraction, where a lot of it, you have your nouns, which is really nice, and objects. So you can definitely make it into a story. So these are the things that you can do. Step one, know the core energy. Learn a few strong keywords for each card. So, and I've heard people put them on index cards because sometimes you can remember more about writing. You're using two thoughts of learning. So you're not only seeing the card, but you're also writing down the meaning. So it's more of a motor. So learn a few strong. So this can mean friend. It can mean loyalty, support, trust, or companion whenever you get the dog card. And I always love this because when I use AI to make these slides, I have a golden retriever, and I think it knows that because every dog card is always a golden retriever. So we're going to put the combinations with dog with key. So it could also mean friend plus solution, loyalty plus importance, or support plus certainty. So, what story could these ideas tell? So, let's look at it. So, here is a story. So, we're taking the meanings, just the phrase, and we're putting it into a story, into a sentence. So, a trusted friend helps you find a solution, or this friendship is important, or you can rely on someone's support. So there again is that you have to look at what the question is all about. And here we are. So let the question guide you. The same combinations can communicate something slightly different depending on what you've asked. So, okay, so let's look at this. The heart can represent love, affection, feelings, or something we care deeply about. The ring can represent a commitment, agreement, partnership, contract, or something repeating. So the heart plus the ring, the first question is, what is developing in this friendship? So whenever you're looking at that, it's a loving commitment. Many times I ask the person who wants me to read to them, if they have this question, I always say, okay, so is this a commitment relationship you want or just a love relationship? So it's a loving commitment. So this one is really a committed relationship. Question two, what should I know about this new business opportunity? Say that is something totally different that you wouldn't have thought of. So an agreement you're emotionally invested in. I absolutely love this example. So let's turn the cards now into a sentence. So let's look at clouds plus ring. Okay. Clouds can mean confusion, uncertainty, lack of clarity. Ring can mean commitment, agreement, contract, or partnership, what we've already seen. So there is a confusion or uncertainty surrounding a commitment or agreement. Okay, so we're making that into a sentence. All right, so here we go again. So looking at this is taking it a step further, looking at the question. So expand the reading based upon the question. So the relationship question, someone may be uncertain about commitment. Or career question, There may be uncertainty surrounding an agreement or contract. Financial question. Get clarity before entering into financial agreement. Oh my goodness, that's always important. The same combination again can tell different stories based upon the question you ask. So there's three different questions or situations and meanings behind just a combination of two cards. So this is my number. I just love this. What about intuition? Because I always say whenever I'm doing the card, showing a card reading, I always tell everyone, well, how do you feel? I mean, what was your gut feeling telling you? This is why I always feel like this is important when you're doing a card reading. First, look at the traditional meaning of the cards. That is your ground. That is your anchor. Then look at the question. Then look at how the cards interact together. And after that, notice whether something else catches your attention. Maybe you're drawn strongly to a particular symbol. And I know whenever I just read oracle cards, I would always be drawn to certain things on the card. And to me, that was very important. And it just made the reading shine. Maybe a word suddenly comes into your mind. And sometimes when you're doing a reading, it can turn into a mediumship. You just never know. If you don't think you're a medium, that's how you know, is whenever all of a sudden turns into a mediumship. Remember, a mediumship reading is whenever you connect whoever you're reading into a loved one and you connect that way. All right. So maybe the combination reminds you of something very specific. A story may come out of you of what you thought of something that has happened to you and you turn it into a story for your client. So I love this important point. The traditional meaning gives us the vocabulary. So whenever you're doing the card reading, make sure that you're doing traditional because it gives you the vocabulary of what you're going to use. Intuition helps us hear the conversation. So let's go ahead and do a practice. And this is a 3-card reading right here. All right. And I want you to pause the video if you are wanting to practice. So here's the rider, the letter, and the heart. And of course, we kind of already cheated. We told you what some of the meanings were behind all of this, but let's go ahead and do the practice. So you may want to write it down what the rider means to you or what comes to mind first, the letter and the heart. Of course, we don't have a question. So sometimes when you don't have a question, it is much more difficult to really think of the combinations. Or you can come up with a question. All right. So if you wrote something different, it is okay. Okay. So looking at the meaning. So rider may be something arriving, letter, communication, or heart, love, affection, or something emotionally meaningful. So let's turn this into a story, how the story unfolds. So I might say an emotionally meaningful message is coming. And I love that heart, meaningful. A prince on the horse is going to, it's going to give you a message. So, wouldn't that be nice? Okay. If there were a relationship reading, perhaps you may receive communication from someone you care about. So that's how the story unfolds. So you get all those meanings and you make it into something depending upon the question. So this is the method that I went through today. So look at each card individually. What is the traditional meaning? So that's the first thing that you do. The second one is interact. Observe how the cards sit together. What is happening between them? What is the energy flow going back and forth between? Now, sometimes whenever you're not feeling real good about the interaction or you feel like you just need a clean slate, you can go ahead and reshuffle the cards. Just tell your client, you know what, I'm not feeling really good with the combination and I don't feel like it's a reading for you. I'm going to restart it. So yes, you need to do that if you're not feeling very comfortable with it and you don't feel like it's resonating with you or your client. So then let the question guide the meaning. Okay, make sure that you go back to the question. The same cards can speak differently depending on what you've asked. And the sentence, make it into a sentence. And don't, you can always, which it's almost like with math, whenever you have to count on your fingers, you don't want anyone to know, so you kind of hide them. So you can also do that with each card. If you need to go back to the core meaning in your mind until you're comfortable not doing so, do that in your mind, and the customer does not, or your client does not need to know what you're doing. So turn the meaning into a clear, simple sentence that answers the question. And then 5, use your intuition. Finally, tune in, and you can tune in at the beginning as well. But where you really tune in is at the very end. Is this a good reading? Did everything flow? Did everything connect? Is there anything else that I can tune into to make it a better reading, to make the question even more meaningful? And what I have done before is I sometimes will do a cold reading, which means without the cards, and I'll write down some things that I'm thinking about or what's coming to me intuitively before I even pull out the cards. And I'll tell the client what I'm getting, but I always say, oh, you know what? Let's go to the cards and let's see if there is a connection, if there's a flow of the information, and if this resonates, and if it's together. And it's amazing because many times it will give you additional information, and it will verify and validate what you just said in the psychic reading before you brought the cards out. And the reading is so much more powerful that way. Or you can do just the opposite. You can do the card reading first and then do the psychic reading, pull out some more information that the client may need at this time. So I hope that you enjoyed this lesson on not memorizing the cards, the meanings of the cards, because there's so many. And again, sometimes with the question and with information that you're receiving, it will change the meaning depending upon the context. And be patient with yourself. If you don't get frustrated, if you get frustrated, that's when you need to kind of take a break and then come back, and just know it's a learning experience just like anything else. All right, everybody. Happy Lenormand card reading, and I wish you well. Bye, everybody.